Buenos días. Buenos días. Buenos días. Estoy muy feliz de estar aquí y espero que en el próximo año podría hacer mi discurso en castellano, pero hoy necesito cambiar en inglés. Sorry about that. I'm working on it. I'm working on it. Thank you so much for having. I want to say two thanks, first of all. First, thank you so much for having me, period. I'm thrilled to be here. It's great to see this happen in Spain. And second, thank you so much for having this conference 500 meters from my house. I live just over there. It's fantastic. Every conference should be 500 meters from my house. That's great. I want to talk about some things today that are at the core of agility. So there's a lot of talk about Agile and craft and process and methodologies, but this conversation is about agility, the tools that we use to increase the agility of our teams and our organizations, and how they can be used for good, and how at times, if we don't pay enough attention, they can be used for things that are not so good as well. And we're going to kind of go through that little journey together today. So as we think about this, let's start here. This is where I started my career. I was a designer, and I was the designer who worked on, along with many, many other people and designers who worked on software that went on these CDs. You were lucky, I think, in Spain. I don't think we shipped them to Spain. I think France, Germany, and the UK, but you didn't get them in Spain, which was good. The way that this worked was really interesting. Software was a different beast back then. Software was static. Right? You got this software in the mail. It came in a box. We would work for a long time to get everything perfect, sometimes 6 months, right? Very waterfall process. And then we would print 15 million copies of these CDs. And then we would send them out, and we would hope that people would use them, and we'd learn from that. And then we would iterate the software over the next 6 months, and then we would ship it again. And in that world, our learning loops, the time it took us to find out if we learned anything, if we delivered anything of value, the learning loops were long, 6 to 12 months to learn anything at all. Software adoption was slow 20 years ago, 25 years ago. It took a long time for people to get that box of software, put it in their computer, load it, use it, not use it, we wouldn't know, right? The impact of the technology that we were shipping was limited to tech-savvy people, right? The people who owned computers. 25 years ago, not everybody had a computer, not everybody had a phone, right? And so the people who were exposed to our software were tech-savvy people. The goal for the software that we designed and shipped back then was works as designed, right? This was the spec. This was the software had to match the spec, and that was it, right? That was the goal. And our measure of success was shipping, right? Did we ship the software on time, preferably on budget? That was the measure of success. And that's how the world worked 20 or 25 years ago, right? But a lot of things have changed in the last 25 years, and most importantly, it's this, that software has consumed the world. In 2011, Mark Andreessen famously said, software is eating the world. Well, in the last 8-9 years, I would say that software has eaten the world. It's in everything, right? It's in our phones, obviously, we do that. It's in our coffee machines. Our coffee machines have technology in them. And we're pretty much connecting technology to everything that we can, literally everything. This is the smalt. It's the world's first connected salt shaker. Yeah, it's pretty awesome, right? Software has literally eaten the world. And part of the transformation, the reason why this has happened is because the fundamental nature of software has changed, right? The way that we make software today is different than the way we made software 20 years ago. And it's a lot of thanks goes to this. It goes to DevOps, the integration of ops and development that really helps us build the kind of agile digital product teams that we need to have today. And what's happened as we've increased the use of Agile and DevOps and these kinds of things is that the nature of software has fundamentally changed. When I worked at AOL, 20 years ago, software was static, right? It ended. There was a point where the software stopped. Today, the software never ends. It's just continuous. It just keeps going. There's no end to the products that we make, right? They just show up on our devices. They just continue to update. And if you think about the companies that are the best examples of technology-driven firms, right? Ask yourself things like, when is Facebook done, right? When is Netflix done? When is Amazon done, right? That's the world we live in. It's this continuous world. And it's interesting to see that companies are beginning to understand this. I really actually love this quote from the group executive chairman at BBVA. And the part in orange is the part that is the most important part of this quote. He says, we're therefore competing in a race that has no finish line, right? If we're working to build better companies, better services, better products, better users, right? Better customers, there's no end to that. And there's no predetermined route. There's no roadmap to get there. We like to believe that there's a roadmap, but there isn't one to get there. And we've seen this time and time and time again, right? Companies just struggle to change, right? We've taken this idea of the model year. Right? It took forever for us to get off of this. The model year is a marketing gimmick invented by Alfred Sloan at General Motors 100 years ago. And the reason why we have the model year is to get you to buy next year's car. Right? The only way to get your car to do new things is to buy the next model year. Right? And that was a manufacturing era model for marketing that we applied to software, right? Windows 95, Windows 98, Windows 2000, right? The only way to get your software to do new things was to buy next year's model. But that world has changed, and when you apply this continuous model of thinking, this continuous software model to thinking, you redefine industries, right? Tesla is a great example of how you take a traditional industry and you turn it on its head. You don't have to buy next year's model to have your car do new things. It just does new things by sitting outside of your house overnight. You wake up in the morning, it does new things. Because they think like a software company, Tesla can not only update the way the cars work, but how the entire system that supports the car works. This article here in the middle is about Tesla responding to a tweet with a change in the way the system works, the entire car system works, in 6 days. It's amazing. This guy, Loic, he tweets at Elon Musk and he says, listen, every time I go charge my Tesla, other people have their cars connected to the charger, their cars are full, they've walked away, and I can't charge my car. Elon Musk is the CEO of the company, as you know. He's sensing, he's paying attention. He says, look, an hour later he tweets back and he says, you're right. It's a problem. I'm on it. 6 days later, Tesla changes the system. Every minute that your car stays connected to a charger after it's full costs you money. Right? Now, they're able to react in 6 days because they think like a software company. If you think about companies like General Motors, Ford, BMW, Daimler, Seat, right? They don't think like this. Right? They think like car companies. They can't move that fast. And I'll show you a perfect example of this, actually. My friend Adam in the United States has a Tesla Model 3, and he sends me this stuff all the time. This is a screenshot, as you can see. It's my friend Adam. It literally says Adam right there. Right? And he says, my car got better, 5% faster overnight. Right? I woke up this morning, I got a software update, 5% better. Right? That's this continuous world that we live in. It's amazing. We can continuously improve how we deliver value and how we learn from the market. There is tremendous opportunity that comes from this continuous software world that we live in, and it's because it enables us to have a continuous conversation with the market, continuous conversation with the customers and the users that we serve, right? We have the ability, because of DevOps and other things, to ship ideas into market quickly, small things, the smallest things that we can. We have the ability to sense how that impacts the behavior of those customers. Did it make them more successful? Did it make them less successful? And then we have the responsibility to respond, right? What are we going to do about that? We just learned that something is good or something is bad. What are we going to do about that? And continuous software allows us to have that conversation as many times as we want. Our goal is to get through this feedback loop. This is our learning loop today. Our goal is to get through this learning loop as fast as possible. Why? Because the faster you get through this learning loop, the faster you find out whether what you shipped to your customers, to your users, added value. And then based on that, you can decide whether to scale it up and optimize it or to roll it back. The faster you get through this learning loop, the faster you find out if you were wrong. The faster you find out if you were wrong, you spend less effort on that. It costs less, and so it hurts less to be wrong. It's easier to change course, and that's agility. Agility is learning and then changing course based on evidence we're learning from the market. So the faster we can learn, the faster we can adjust course, the more agile we are as an organization, which then gets us out of this world, right? There's still this feeling in the world, most of the people that I work with, most of the companies that I work with, still think about software development teams as factories, right? And that Agile is just supposed to make that production of software faster. But we simply, if we can ship software continuously, we have to stop thinking about the delivery of software as value. Because I guarantee you that there's only one thing you're guaranteed to have by shipping more code. And that's more code. That's it. And that code is future tech debt that you're going to have to live with forever with these systems. And so our measure of success has to change in this case. Because one of the things I want you to take away from this is this. Right? We've got to get out of this mindset, right? Just because you can build it just doesn't mean that you should. We have to learn what combination of features, of code, of design actually delivers value. And we do that by measuring outcomes. Outcomes are measurable changes in customer behavior. We gave them something, some code, some service, some product, and their behavior changed. What was it? Right? Outcomes tell us when we've delivered value because we can see those positive changes in the behavior of the customer or negative changes. Maybe we didn't deliver value. And outcomes tell us when we're done. Right? Works as designed is not good enough anymore. Works as designed is the beginning of the conversation with the people that we serve. How we impact their behavior is the definition of done. Let me show you a quick case study about this. Okay, this is a case study about Gibson guitars. That's a sad story. Gibson Guitars has filed for bankruptcy. Did you know that? It's kind of sad. Here's what happened. Gibson realized that the market, guitar sales were dropping, and that the market was changing. And so they brought in a new CEO, and that CEO was focused strictly on innovation. Right? Let's make new stuff, better stuff, more gadgets, different devices, different types of guitars, different types of this and that. And they put out all these new features into the marketplace, and nobody was buying them. And ultimately, this cost Gibson a lot of money, and they ended up filing for bankruptcy because they weren't paying attention to what the root cause was. They weren't learning from the market what the root cause was of the change in guitar sales. On the other hand, Fender Guitars is thriving. Fender Guitars recognized that the change in guitar buying was largely due to a demographic shift. Over half of new guitar buyers were women. And they didn't necessarily care about the latest gadgets or innovations or new features on guitars. They wanted to buy guitars that worked for them, and they could learn how to play them very easily. And so you've got Gibson communicating to the marketplace with the guitar gods of old, right? This is Slash. And you've got Fender. This is what the Fender's website looks like, communicating to their audience, understanding what the needs are, and then shipping more better software, products, and hardware to meet those needs. That learning loop allows them to learn more quickly. Now, here's the challenge with outcomes and with customers, is that we cannot predict behavior. We think we can, but we can't, and I'll prove it to you. Okay? Here's an intersection in Massachusetts in the United States. Now, you'll notice in this intersection that there is a right turn arrow right there. Now, somebody's boss told them to make this intersection safer and to make sure that people turned right. And that they stopped at the intersection, and most importantly, they didn't turn left. And that person said, I got this. I know how to do it. I'm going to put up a stop sign and a no left turn sign. Right? That has to work. Right? Except it doesn't work. It didn't work in this particular case because we didn't understand the nature of these particular drivers. These are unique drivers. They are in Massachusetts. And if you've ever been to Massachusetts, you know that we have a special name for the drivers in Massachusetts. Do you know what we call them? Anybody know? I used to live there, so I can say it. We call them Massholes. Yeah, true story. Yeah. Learn something new, right? And they'll do whatever they want. Just because you put up a stop sign doesn't mean that they have to stop, right? And again, this is output. This is the feature. This is the stuff that we make. And our goal is to change behavior, to change that outcome. Now, the challenge here, of course, is that we can't predict behavior, that software is complex and unpredictable. Humans are also complex and unpredictable and stubborn, and no matter what you put in their way, they'll figure out how to do whatever they want despite the obstacles you put in their system, right? And even if we do figure out their behavior, ultimately it's not static. With this DevOps continuous world, behavior changes very, very quickly. And new behavior emerges from the systems that we build, from the usage of the systems that we build, and stuff that we could never predict before is in there as well. Let me show you another example. This is Instagram. I love Instagram. I really do. I use it all the time. Instagram is the place where you go and you post that one perfect picture of the day, right? So I travel a lot. I'm going to go to, I was in Sweden yesterday in the middle of nowhere. But I took some photos and it was cool. And at the end of the day, I was in my hotel and I went through all my photos and I picked the one that I liked and I edited it and I uploaded it. And that's a lot of pressure. I was feeling that pressure myself. It turns out that's a lot more pressure for teenage girls than it is for guys like me, right? Teenage girl will go to the beach and have this picture taken of her, right? And she'll crop this part out. This goes on Instagram, right? This guy does not go on Instagram, right? He gets cropped out completely, and it's a ton of pressure. And what Instagram noticed was a behavior change, an outcome emerging through the use of the software. What they saw was the rise of this Finsta. Now, if you don't know what Finsta is, you either don't know any teenage girls or don't have teenage daughters. I have 2 teenage daughters, and I know what Finsta is. Finsta stands for fake Instagram. They're private, closed groups of close friends on Instagram, primarily teenage girls, where they can do stuff like this. Take a silly picture and write on it, to relieve the pressure of posting that one perfect picture every day, right, publicly. Instagram never predicted this behavior, but they saw it emerge, this outcome emerged through the use of their system. They saw it emerge outside of their system in Snapchat, right, 24-hour stories that disappear. And they brought it in-house, and they continue to improve it, and they continue to drive this improvement, this continuous improvement of the service that they're offering based on the changing behaviors of the users of that system. And we can use this ability to learn to make our customers increasingly more successful. This is agility, right? The more that we learn, the better we can change course to improve the systems that we make to make our customers and our users more successful. I really like this example. This is Citymapper. Citymapper is a London-based app for navigating major cities every way except driving. Right? It's about walking, bus, public transportation, bicycles, scooters, catapults. It's all in there. Right? Everything is in there. What's really interesting is that, so what's the outcome, right? What's the goal for Instagram? The outcome for them is they want to get people to arrive at their destination more quickly, more consistently, in a reliable way. That's the change in behavior, okay? Through the use of their system, they saw a behavior emerge. What they recognized was that there was a gap in London in a route that the Transport for London, the public transportation system, wasn't accommodating. Right? There was a gap there. People kept trying to go from point A to point B, and they couldn't get there. And for them, they said, great, we can improve our system and we can try and discover new business models and adjacent ways to deliver value to our customers to help them achieve their outcome. And so they shipped a bus. Right? It's a software company. They launched a bus to fill that gap. And they took that bus and they designed it with the software that they already had, which was really good. It's really nicely designed. And they built bus software as well to help the drivers be more successful in this way. Right? So if we can use this ship, sense, and respond model to learn, we can continuously improve our systems, pay attention to those emerging behaviors, and deliver value, right? Adjust course, be agile, and deliver more value to our customers, maybe even discover some adjacent businesses. But here's where this thing goes a little sideways. Sometimes, as we optimize for these changes in behavior, the things that seem trivial to us end up creating unintended consequences, right? Things that may seem trivial at first. Let's take Twitter for a second, right? All the things that we use today on Twitter, other than the basic tweeting functions, emerged from the use of the system, right? Hashtags were invented by Chris Messina, hyperlinks to hashtags, right? Twitter didn't come up with hashtags. They emerged through the use of the system. And they began to support it, and then monetize it, and you can advertise against it. And everything that we love about Twitter is that @replies and retweets, all that stuff came up through the use of the system. And Twitter grew, and Twitter thrived, and our conversations became richer and broader and more interesting and perhaps more complex, to the point where now we're seeing governments show concern over the kinds of conversations that hashtags and retweets and @replies have enabled, right? Twitter is optimizing the use of their system, but all of a sudden the usage of that system is driving conversations that are having some unintended negative real-world consequences, which is super interesting. And so then we look to the leaders of these organizations, right? And Jack says, look, we didn't fully predict or understand the real-world negative consequences of Twitter, basically, right? We built this communication system, and oops, by optimizing it, we created all these behaviors, these outcomes in the world, but we're going to build a framework to fix it, we're going to work fast, and we're going to learn from these ongoing conversations. He publishes publicly, and Twitter gave him the appropriate response, right? Which is what he deserved for this, right? This is what Twitter users would say to him. And so the takeaway here, and I'm going to show you a bunch of examples, is this. I'll be the first person to stand up in front of you, your team, your boss, your CEO, whoever, and tell you that you should manage to outcomes, that we should focus on changing behavior as a measure of success. But doing so blindly, just kind of very narrow-focused, without considering the real-world implications, is at best risky. And I'll show you some examples. At worst, it's criminal. And we have an opportunity as the makers of digital products and services to get ahead of this. Let's talk about this, okay? Engagement. Engagement. So many of our companies focus on, if you're in media, if you're in social media, if you're in advertising or PR or marketing, or even in retail, we want engagement, right? And perhaps the 800-pound gorilla, 800-kilo gorilla in the room is Facebook. Facebook has gifted us with two metrics, two outcomes, MAU and DAU, monthly active users and daily active users. And our goal is, and their goal specifically, is to optimize the number of monthly active users and daily active users. So if you're engaging in some content on Facebook, they're going to give you more of that content. And they're going to encourage you to come back and provide more of that content so others like you can also engage more. That's their business model. That's what they optimize the system for. Well, it turns out that in Myanmar, they are engaged in an ethnic cleansing campaign that's going after a Rohingya minority. And by going on Facebook, which is the internet basically in Myanmar, right? People are outing their neighbors, they're calling out, they're saying, hey, I found some people over here, let's go get them, right? And Facebook is excited by this because people are engaged in the site. And they're using the site every day, and in this way, they're actually contributing to a potential genocide in Myanmar, right? And it doesn't stop there with Facebook. Again, Facebook's focus is on engagement, right? Recently, Facebook said that it's okay for politicians to lie on their platform. All other form of lying on the platform is not good, but politicians can say whatever they want, right? Because that drives daily active users and monthly active users. And we're seeing this from company after company after company. They're optimizing for outcomes, to be clear, right? That's what they're trying to change customer behavior. YouTube's really good at this too. You watch one YouTube video about something, and you'll get 50 more just like it. So if you accidentally, or maybe not accidentally, watch a video on bomb making or white supremacy or nationalism or something along those lines, YouTube is going to give you a ton more of those videos. And in fact, they are now being implicated in it's an outcome, right? It's the radicalization of young white kids, particularly in America, right, who are going down these YouTube rat holes of watching video after video after video, and YouTube's okay with this because that's their outcome. That's the behavior change that they're going for, right? All the features that they're designing, the algorithmic features, are there to drive that kind of behavior. Something to think about. Sales. We all want to sell stuff. All of our companies sell stuff, right? Super interesting story. Target is a big department store in the United States. They do a tremendous amount of big data analytics and predictive modeling. They know, based on your shopping patterns, especially women's shopping patterns, when you're pregnant. They know. They know when you're going to buy, when you start buying different things, even before you tell anybody, when you start changing your buying patterns, they know when you're pregnant, and they start advertising to you maternity products. Baby products. Well, it turns out, in this particular case, there was a teenage girl who changed her buying habits at Target. Target picked up on this and started communicating to her and to her parents through direct mail pieces and online advertising maternity products and baby products, right? Except this girl hadn't told her parents that she was pregnant yet. Target told them, right? Right? That's an outcome, right, that has negative, unintended, real-world consequences. Let's talk about efficiency. One of the things that a lot of organizations drive for is efficiency. How can our staff be more productive, to spend less time on work and move things forward, right? This is particularly true if you work in HR in a large company and you're trying to sort through a large number of CVs. Somebody wrote an algorithm, an AI algorithm, at Amazon to sort through the tens of thousands of CVs that they get every week. But the biases of that programmer, that software development team, ended up in the code. And by optimizing for the efficiency, the outcome, right, of the HR department, it downgraded specific keywords that threw out resumes, CVs from women. Things like women's universities, things like I was on the women's tennis team. If that was in the CVs, they got downgraded in the algorithm, right? To make people more efficient. But the biases of our of the code that we write, of us, ends up in the code that we write. Another really good example is this one. There's a company in the UK right now that is asking you to submit video as a job for a job interview, and then they are comparing that video to 25,000 other pieces of video through an algorithm, 25 pieces of video of other people who supposedly did a good job in that position that you're applying for, and then based on that video comparison, they're deciding whether or not you're a good candidate, right? But all of these algorithms that we build in inevitably have the biases of the programmers who wrote that code, right? Now the goal here is efficiency, right? To spend less time reviewing non-qualified applicants, to spend more time focusing on the qualified applicants, and that's an admirable goal. But if we blindly optimize for those outcomes without noticing the negative real-world consequences, we start to run into trouble. I'll show you a couple more. In the name of convenience, it can be used to hurt people. We build all these amazing technologies. We connect technology to everything, right? Automated house, lighting, security system, door locks, cameras, all of those things. And we consider the happy path, right? 80% of the time, this is how people will use it. They'll remotely unlock their house. They'll turn up the air conditioning. They'll turn up the music, dim the lights, whatever it is. But it turns out that a lot of folks are now using those home automation systems to hurt other people. Right? Partners that have broken up are now being terrorized by their ex-partners who have control over their house. They make it dark in there, they make it really cold, they make it really hot, they turn the music up, they do all of these things, right? And we optimize the ease of use of these systems to get people to use them, right? We want people to engage in these actions, but we don't consider the negative real-world consequences in that case as well. And then lastly, in this particular case, in the name of news, right, getting news, it can elevate the worst in us, right? The more that we see people excited by a topic, the more that the news organizations see it by that engagement, they drive more and more and more of that to move forward. And it's not just the social media companies or retail or news. Most industries are using this type of technique to change behavior without actually focusing on the negative real-world consequences. Now look, at the end of the day, you may say to yourself, look, I'm an engineer, I'm a scrum master, I'm an Agile coach, I'm a product manager, whatever it is, right? What can I do about this? Well, you're right, to some extent. This is a leadership issue because this is not, right? The avoiding these negative unintended real-world consequences is not what we're incentivizing our leaders to do, right? The VCs of the world, the stock markets of the world are incentivizing our leaders, right, to keep costs down, to drive up efficiencies, and whatever that means to them, right? And the reality is this, right, is that if we don't pay attention to what drives the engagement, the usage, the efficiency that we're looking for, we're going to amplify many of these negative real-world consequences. So, a couple things to think about, okay? Again, you're going to say, look, I'm not Jack Dorsey, I'm not Zuckerberg, I don't run the company. I get that, right? What can you do in this particular case? First of all, I hear this all the time from developers. I work with a lot of developers. I trust my project manager. Why do I need to talk to customers? Why do I need to pay attention to anything? Right? My product manager said it's this way. I'm just going to put my head down and code. And I don't think you can afford that anymore. Right? You have to be more curious. You have to understand more broadly how the work that you do impacts the company and the users and the customers of that as well. Right? You might say to yourself, look, I just want to write code. Right? That's what I want to do. That's what I was hired to do. Cat's always good, right? I just want to write code, right? Awesome. You can't do that anymore. You can't just blindly write the code, and because of the reach, the impact, right? We're not putting it on a CD and shipping it to 10 million people. We're putting it on the internet and giving it to 3 billion people, right? You can't blindly sit down and just write code. And this is the thing I want you to take away from this, right? As the makers, as the leaders of these teams, as the coaches, as the makers of the software itself, right? Your ethical fingerprints end up in that product and service, right? And so you've got to be aware of that. You've got to be alert. And if you see those behaviors, those negative consequences happening in the real world, you've got to do something about that. Right? You've got to ask this question about what will my code be used to do? Because let me be very, very clear. I'm going to put it very clear about this. If this starts to go poorly for the organization, you know who ends up in jail? Not the CEOs. You do. This is the guy, his name is James Liang. This is the guy who wrote the code at Volkswagen to cheat the diesel emission testing machines. He's in jail for 4 years. The CEO of Volkswagen, not in jail, right? This is the guy who wrote the code, right? What did he think his code was going to be used to do? What outcome was going to be generated from that? What was he going to learn from that and continuously improve? You have to ask those questions. Now, to give you, I love this quote. I'm a big, big fan of Kim Goodwin. She's a designer and a product leader. And when she talks about bringing ethics into the conversation, into the way that we work, into our continuous improvement processes, she talks about being goal-driven, but values-guided, and to measure both. Goal-driven, those are the outcomes. Those are the behavior changes that we want to achieve. Values are the things that we are not willing to compromise to achieve the goal. And that's a really good discussion to have with your teams, right? What are our outcomes? Let's talk about that. And then what are we not willing to sacrifice to achieve those outcomes? And then measure both those things as you continue moving forward. And so to bring this home, okay, what can you do? Right? If you're not Jack Dorsey, if you're not Zuckerberg, right, what can you do? There's a few things you can do here. First and foremost, understand your business model, right? As a Scrum Master, an Agile coach, a product manager, a developer, whatever it is that you do, understand how your company makes money. Understand how the work that you do fits into that model. Very, very important. Take an interest in your customers. Get to know them. Talk to them. Watch them use your products. Understand what challenges they're facing and how the work that you do helps them be better at that. And if you find out that the work that you're doing does not make them better, see if you can fix that. Use the software that you build to learn. Metrics, analytics, continuous learning. Use that continuous world to build those feedback loops so that we're always getting insight back from the market that tells us that we've delivered something of value or not of value and how that's impacting the broader behavior of our target audience. Measure the impact of your work, right? How did what I do help, or how did it not help? And what can I do to make things better? Discuss the dangerous edge cases. We do this so rarely. And look, I've been building software for over 20 years. We always talk about the happy path. This is what people will do. Awesome. Let's talk about the edge cases as well and make sure that we're optimizing to mitigate those outcomes, to reduce those outcomes. And then lastly, and this is something that you can absolutely do today, it is a good time to be in software, refuse the work that harms people. Right? If you've noticed that the work that you're doing is starting to harm people, raise your hand and say, look, I'm not going to do this. Right? You have that power, and you can do it together. If you don't feel like doing it alone, I want you to know that other people are thinking about the same thing, and we see this across companies. 20,000 people walked out of Google a few months ago to protest the way that they were treating executives who were accused of sexual harassment. They organized and they walked out. The same thing can happen if you're seeing that kind of behavior, the kind of behavior that optimizes for those negative real-world consequences in your place of work. You have that opportunity. I'll close with this. And Jurassic Park is always good for quotes. If you're ever looking for quotes for a talk, Jurassic Park is perfect for it. But Jurassic Park is great. It says, look, we were so preoccupied with whether or not we could do it, we never stopped to ask whether we should do it, right? We're always focused on, can we actually build it? Can we make it? But we never pause to talk about, should we do it? And that's the question I want you to think about when you go back to work next week. Thanks so much for having me. I was thrilled to be here. I hope to see you again soon. Okay. I don't know what happens next. Should I stay here? Do you want me to take questions? I'm happy to take questions. Did I surprise you? All right, I don't know what's happening, but I'm happy. Do you have any questions? It says 10 on there. Any questions? Anything at all? Yeah. That's okay.
Can you stand up? I can give you a microphone.
Oh, with the intersection solved, No, no, you can't change the Massholes. No, they've been driving like that for a long time. Anything else? Yeah, there's a question over here.
Okay, thank you. I think that was great. That is really a keynote. What happens when your customers, I mean, you work for a company that you feel absolutely fine with the business model and everything you do, but you work for customers that maybe they are on the gray-black area?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I helped launch and run a consulting company for 4 years. We had basically one rule, which was every new client that came into the practice, one of the principals, one of the main people in the, myself and my 2 partners, somebody had to stand up and say, this will be my client. Like, I will take this client, right? And if none of us accepted that responsibility of saying, I want to do this work, then we refused the work. And so I think that it's good to have some kind of an articulated set of values that says we want to do this kind of work, we do not want to do this kind of work, and a clear process for deciding whether or not to take work, particularly in a services environment, right? And that's difficult, right? When someone's giving you a big sack of money to do some work and you need it to pay your people and keep the electricity on, it's difficult to say no. And that's when your values are truly being tested in that particular situation. I had an opportunity about a year ago to do some work with a friend of mine who I'd never really worked with before, and I was really looking forward to it. You know, he and I think the same, and I can learn a lot from him, and I was excited about it. But the client was a defense contractor, right? If you're a defense contractor and we're helping you do your job better, there's a couple of ways to think about it, right? You could say, I'm helping you defend your country. That's one way to look at it, right? It is. The other way is, I'm helping you kill people more efficiently, right? And that's the way that I was looking at it. And so as much as I wanted to work with him on a project, I stepped back from that. And I said, look, I don't want to do that. And so I think writing that stuff down, being very clear about it, and having a process that says, okay, if we're not clear, if something's on the fence, right? Especially if it's like, I don't know what this is. Let's have a process, whether it's a vote or somebody in a leadership position says, yes, I will own this, right? I think that goes a long way. You know, and I think the other thing to do is if you do choose to take a project or a client that's in the gray area for you, as a company, I would listen to the people that are working on that project. They're going to give you feedback, and they're going to say, look, this is weird, like we're optimizing the targeting of people or whatever it is, right? So I would listen for that feedback as well and pay attention to that, because I know the money's super enticing, but it's not worth it in those situations. Yeah.
Okay, so we have run out of time. Thank you very much. We have run out of time for questions.
Okay.
Remember, you can use the Slido application.
Thanks, everybody.